Welcome back to the 5% Club. I'm Shayla King, a former C-suite executive turned business and life coach. And this is the podcast for leaders who want it all. The promotions, the paychecks, and luxurious amounts of time for the things that matter most. Each week, I'm going to teach you from my performance and happiness formula what it takes to rise to the top without burnout and overwhelm. Work less, make more, and design a life you love. That's what we do in the 5% Club. Let's go. Welcome back to the 5% Club. I am Shayla King, your favorite performance and happiness coach, and today we have a treat for you. So we have several members of our last cohort of the Performance and Happiness Lab here with us today to talk all about it. So let's jump right in. Lynn, can you introduce yourself and tell everybody a little bit about who you are?
Hi, Shayla. I am Lynn Mulligan, and I lead a data governance and strategy team. And I was super excited to join the Performance and Happiness Lab because I was really looking for that spark of my future and inspiration for all that was going on in my life, personal and work.
All right, Jess, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sounds good. I'm Jess McAndrews, and I am the CEO of a national nonprofit and a recovering lawyer. I joined the lab really because I was overwhelmed and exhausted by my life, and I was looking to make some changes to just be happier.
Perfect. Dr. DeArcy, I know you are back for your second round on the podcast, so listeners may know you from before, but will you give an intro to anyone that you are new to?
Absolutely. So my name is Dr. DeArcy Vaughan. I'm a pharmacist and executive healthcare leader at a Fortune 10 pharmaceutical distributor and healthcare technology company. And I've been working with Shayla one-to-one for quite some time. And then when she opened up the PH Lab, I was super excited to be in a room with other high-achieving women leaders. So I signed up right away. I was really excited.
I love that. Will you give us a little glimpse of where was life when you started?
So before your coaching, I was overworking and doing all the things, raising my hand for all of the assignments and thinking that was my path to promotion, and that only led to extreme burnout. You know, I loved my company, but I was clearly doing something wrong. So I signed up for your coaching, and you have helped me so much learn to focus on what is absolutely essential about my role, and then the other things I can let go to be more effective at the key projects that I work on.
Awesome. Yeah, it's been fun to watch you accomplish more while life gets easier.
Yes, and just so much less stressful on myself while being more productive on my key projects. So it's been super fun to watch it both happen at the same time, having a really nice work-life balance while also kicking butt at work, to be honest.
Yeah, I love that. And will you talk to me a little bit about why you joined the lab? So what
Sure.
was the community aspect that was interesting for you?
Sure. So in our one-to-one sessions, it's up to me, right, to bring the topic and the subject matter to each of our sessions, which, I'm always happy to do. There's always something going on that we need to explore. And even if I didn't have a topic, you were gracious enough to come in and give me one that we could work on for the day. But I really enjoyed the structure of the lab where you had hey, this is what we're going to go through. And these are all of the deliverables you're going to have at the end of the 3 months, while at the same time making some really nice relationships with some other female leaders in the group. So I really enjoy doing this work in a team setting.
Yeah, I love that. I think anybody who loves kind of academic learning will appreciate the PH Lab because it is a very specific module that was very intently chosen for that week, right? And then you get to go deep on it and then actually do work on it so that you can start to embed it. And so we talk a lot about it being kind of like this football analogy of preseason. It's where you learn all the plays, you learn how everything works, you learn to work together. And in the one-on-one, we can just customize it to you as you're live during a game. Here's what's happening, right? Jess, how about you? Will you tell us where you were when we started?
Yeah, so I did a few sessions with you, Shayla, when we started the pH lab. And I think it was great because it kind of introduced me to kind of the concept of what we were going to be doing. I will admit I did not know much about the pH lab when I joined in, and I was a little bit nervous. I was honestly looking, for more of the one-on-one coaching. And I thought, okay, what is this lab going to be? Who are these other people that I'm going to be with? I was a little nervous, but I've been pleasantly surprised. I feel like I've not only made friends, but people that I can turn to with that are in similar positions as me or have been going through some of the same things. And it's been I think it's also opened up my eyes to things that I wouldn't have brought up in one-on-one coaching that I didn't even realize I needed help with or could think about in a different way. So that's been incredibly helpful to kind of have that playbook.
Yeah, that's a really great point. I've been in things that I was the student in as well. And then you hear someone bring something up and you're like, ooh, I haven't even uncovered that myself. And I could definitely look into that corner, right? Or like, oh, this subject that she brought up is something I can really apply to this other area of my life. And I love that you said that at first you were like nervous. You're like, what is this thing going to be like? And so the way that I have it set up so that everybody knows now is you can join the Performance and Happiness Lab as a standalone. You can also have one-on-one coaching. And if you are one of my one-on-one clients, the lab is included as part of your package. And so that's why Jess said, I was really coming for one-on-one. And then you said, you need to go to the lab. And so we'll jump more into in this conversation today, what you ended up loving about the lab and the community aspects, because I do think that's something that a lot of women feel like they're kind of doing it alone. And so I think it's a beautiful way to create and develop those relationships. And so we'll jump more into that, as well as, like you said, learning from the hot seat coaching from other leaders as well. Lynn, how about you?
Yeah, Shayla, that really resonated when you said like a lot of us feel like we're sometimes going at these things alone, and this community I think is really great because these individuals that are in the group with you become your cheerleaders and your champions, celebrating successes together, and you start to realize how much you have in common with other individuals, whether it's the results, relationships, and rituals, the things you talk about throughout the lab. There are always things that resonate and things that we can talk about and share together that we're all experiencing, whether it's in our work life or our personal lives.
Yeah, I love that. So let's jump in. Is someone willing to share? Let's go through like the first shift, the first time you're like, oh, this is different. I think it's working.
I can start with one of the things that I really resonated with me was around essentialism. And so I think coming into this at times paralyzed by indecision. So I had so many things that I wanted to do, but I didn't really know where to start or where to channel my energy. And so when you talked a lot about identifying the high impact, high value work, and then whether it's your calendar, your time, where you're spending your activities, your actions, like in order to meet that future goal or really aligned around what it is you're looking for in the future. So I really liked that element of it, and boiling a long list of to-dos that we all have down into what are those most essential, most important things that are going to add value to your life.
Yeah, I love that. Executive essentialism is just one of the core skills that usually keeps people stuck in middle management because they're completely overwhelmed and trying to figure out what is actually the priority. And we get demands from all different areas. So we do have 1 week that is specifically covering executive essentialism. But I would say that's one of the topics that is woven throughout every time we talk about a new goal or a new topic is how are you figuring out what matters and what doesn't, the signal versus the noise.
And one of the things that surprised me the most, because I thought like I need some structure, I need organization, how do I narrow that down? What surprised me the most throughout it was the concept of mindset and how we show up and how we can control our own thoughts, which then drive our actions, has really surprised me as I look back over this time together, and how often every day the way I talk to myself and the way I show up really helps those tactical, the systems, the strategies, the things you're doing. It really helps you to realize how much you can control yourself in how you show up mentally or physically.
Absolutely. I mean, some of us are walking around going, God, I'm so overwhelmed. I'm so tired. I have so much to do. And those are just terrible thoughts, right? And so one of the things that I love doing is watching you guys grow in the lab, where you end up sometimes with the exact same circumstances and feeling completely different, right? Feeling completely lighter, and then realizing how much control you do have to say no and to set boundaries. But I think you're right. The magic is not in another productivity system. And trust me, I have tried them all. I'm like the queen of efficiency and productivity. But as soon as you learn how to narrow down to what matters and what doesn't, the rest just falls away. And then it gets really simple. What were some of the first things for you, DeArcy or Jess?
So for me, I get, my pharmacist training wants me to be a perfectionist. Like if you make a medical mistake with someone's prescription, they could, have a really horrible experience, a horrible outcome. So as pharmacists, we're trained to never let a mistake happen. But in the business world, as a healthcare executive, you have to move fast. You have to execute. And sometimes you have to put yourself out on a limb and things that haven't been done before. So naturally, there's going to be a learning curve, some mistakes made, and it's having your own back when those things happen, and understanding that it's more important that we get the work done than the work be perfect. And so for me, that was a key piece of learning, is like, you have to let the work go, like before you're ready to let it go. B+ work is better than A+ work because it's going to be executed on sooner, and then you can retool and you can redo it later if need be. But the bias towards action is so important. And so when you do make a mistake, not beating yourself up in your head, or, that you would have loved to do it better if you had more time, but you know what, we had to get this done.
Yeah, absolutely. I heard that I remember us talking about Pixar, and the Pixar said we never finish a movie, we just release them. And that's what we've got to learn to do, is to keep things moving and be decisive and make decisions, because that's what executives do. They don't wait for perfection. And we really had some deep discussions around why we try to be perfect and who we're being perfect for. Because when, just like Lynn said, when we can shift the mindset behind it, then we can shift the behavior.
Yeah, there was so much to it that, I would think, I wasn't being giving it at my all, or I wasn't trying hard enough if I wasn't delivering a perfect product. And in reality, it's better to have it done than have it like absolutely perfect.
Yeah, that really resonates with me, DRC. It's what I've noticed the most that's changed for me as well, is my mindset. And I give a lot of speeches in my role, and I would get done with a speech before I started here, and I would spend the next day, maybe two, just going over it in my head and all of the things I did wrong or could have done better or potentially missed. And it would just consume me. And it was completely not beneficial to me at all. So in working with you guys and Shayla to just learn how to stop that kind of doom loop, and the way I talk to myself now is completely different. When I get done with something, I can be done with it, do an after action, and move on. And it's not a personal attack, a personal doom loop that sits in my head for 2 days and really wasn't allowing me to move on or get anything else done.
I love it. And that's an area that we really try to master inside of our mindset modules, is failing without shame. And so every time that we fail, what happens as humans is that we feel bad and we go into a hole, and then we shame ourselves some more. And a lot of us were taught that the harder we are on ourselves, the more that means we care, right? And so what we learn is that there's actually no purpose and no value to that shame cycle. And instead, what we can do is we can evaluate ourselves just like we're a project. And we can only do that when we feel safe. So when we feel sufficient and we feel like we're good as a human and in our life, then we can be, pausing for sound, then we can be intellectually honest and really evaluate what worked, what's in it, what do I want to do different? And then you keep going. And I cannot undersell how important that is for being not only a happy leader, but to move quick. Because when you don't go down into that hole and just stay there and then slowly climb back out a few weeks later and then go, well, maybe I'll try again, but I don't want to try that much because that was scary and that didn't work out. So I'll try less this time and see if I'm safe there. When we can get rid of all of that, then you just go, go, go until you get what you want. And that's great for your business and it's great for your life. And it feels a hell of a lot better than our old way, which is I messed up, let me be hard on myself.
So
and there's
actually,
just no purpose to it.
Yeah, so this actually came up for me yesterday. I had given a presentation Monday, and turns out someone that was in the room disagreed with my point. So didn't feel comfortable bringing it up in the meeting, but came back to me yesterday and said, like, that I really didn't think you handled that well. I disagreed with you here. And it's kind of being pretty hard on me about it. And normally that would have spun me out for hours. And just being able to bring myself back to center, calm myself down, realize yes, this was a point of disagreement between me and a coworker, and it doesn't mean that it has to stop me in my tracks or keep me from moving forward. I apologize that they received it that way. I didn't apologize for my actions because I still think my actions were fine. But what was neat is I had a very important meeting right after, and I was able to pull myself together and really get into that meeting, even though I really wanted to cancel it and just go in a hole. And I was able to go through that meeting, and it was a great day for the rest of the day because I was like, okay, you're going to get over it. You're going to get through. And what was so fun is being able to come back to our shared Facebook group and talk to the group about it in this Facebook group about here's how I handled it. And I wasn't, I didn't spin out. I was able to get through a rough patch and keep it moving. And I felt so great about how I was talking to myself about that scenario, because in the past I would have just really beat myself up about how that went.
I mean, that is the quintessential example, right? I think that happens and everyone can relate to it in business is you get some type of negative feedback and then you want to go, or somebody's condescending or rude to you and then you want to go down into that hole, or we start spinning and then we have to call everybody and process it out loud, right? I got to call 5 coworkers. I got to cancel a meeting. I got to talk about it. I got to call my spouse. I got to say this is ridiculous. I got to stew on it all weekend. And you were like, so that just happened. How do I want to feel about it? How do I want to think about it? Great. 5-second funeral, 5-minute funeral, move on to the next meeting. All right. Now I'm moving forward.
What really happened was the future self work that you taught us, which is to imagine yourself in the future as the, highest level executive you could think of for yourself. And so, I was really talking myself through that scenario thinking okay, well, when you are, 3-4 levels above where you are now, how will you handle this situation? That's going to happen all the time and you're just going to have to move on. We're going to have to agree to disagree and move on to the next meeting. So that's really what I did. And it helped me so much to think about that version of myself in the future and how they would handle it. So I thank you so much for that tutoring.
One of the other things that I think, you talked about in how do you change that mindset so quickly? And so some of the exercises that we went through were on the physical energy, the emotional energy, and what are those things that you need for yourself when you recognize that you're at that point, and what can you do to pull yourself out of it more quickly? And I loved how we talked a lot about play. So whether it's playing music, being physical, going for a walk, doing Pilates. I have a young child going out and playing basketball and shooting hoops, or playing and experiencing joy through their eyes, and doing things like that help you to more quickly pivot when you recognize you're in one of those moments.
Yeah, I love it. There is, what we end up doing is we build you a toolbox, right? And so the toolbox are different tools that you can pull out when different things happen in your life to help you get back on track and live your best life. And we also talk about really knowing the recipe for success and happiness for you. So we figure out what the recipe is for you individually to be happy and to be successful. And so knowing, like you said, which of those physical things work best for you, which work best for you and your son, so that you can play and you can get back to yourself. And so I think that even though it's a group program, there's lots of areas where you really take the work and customize it to yourself as well. So DeArcy, you mentioned coming to the Facebook group and getting to tell everybody what happened. So let's talk a little bit about the format of the program. The program was really designed to give you guys actual community. I've been in programs before where they say it's all about community, but then the teacher comes on and teaches, and then there's no way to ever contact anybody else on the call. And that's it. And so I really wanted to design this with intention to give you those opportunities, and you guys helped improve it as well by adding to that. So let's talk a little bit about the format. So on Tuesdays, we have our live training session. And prior to that, you get a video that has that subject for the week that you can watch ahead of time and learn the concept of that week. And then we get on our live Tuesday call, and I teach at the beginning that same subject, but I'll elaborate on the video or take out different points that are relative to you or the group. And then we do hot seat coaching, which means anyone can raise their hand and get coached on anything that they want related to that subject. And if they have something that's really timely that's away from that subject, we do that too, right? And so then on Friday, we have our Future Fridays peer call that I absolutely love. It's designed to do two things. One, give you dedicated time every week to actually work on that week's work. So I give you an evolve work for the week, and you have, a document that comes with it that teaches you about the subject deeper and then asks you to go do something with it so that it becomes real in your life. And so that 30 minutes is your time that you can really start that work. And then the second half an hour is for you guys to get to know each other. So talk to me about how the program structure has worked for you.
Well, I personally love that there's built-in time on Fridays to do the work because as a, busy executive, sometimes it's just hard to find time in the week to do it. But when I know I have that Friday set aside and I have the other members of my group there working on the same thing and we'll talk about it at the half hour mark, like it really holds you accountable to actually get the work done of the group. It's very helpful.
Yeah. And I will say that, again, coming in, but Shayla, I think one of the first things you said to me was you have to agree to believe and be uncomfortable. And I will tell you, yes, believe and be uncomfortable. And again, with the Fridays, I was uncomfortable because I'm busy and I'm overwhelmed and I don't have time for not only Tuesday, but Friday as well. What is she asking of me here? So I really went into it being uncomfortable, but I showed up every Friday, I believe. And I have to tell you, it's my favorite part of the week now. We just had a great conversation this afternoon and it was so much fun. And I love just hearing everybody's updates, talking about what's going on in their workplace, all of the wins that we've been having is just, it's awesome. It makes such a great end to the week. I think it's my favorite part.
Yep,
I'll miss it.
All of that. It's those accountability partners, the cheerleaders that we all need, and that dedicated time to get the priorities done.
I love that. You can tell it was built by an executive, right? So it was built by an executive because I know you need dedicated time in your calendar to get the work done. And I know that you need community. And so I think that it's beautifully designed to give you everything that you need, even if before you start, you don't know that's what you need, right?
Well, and I really appreciate that that there's not like a ton of volume to what you're asking for, but you have very specific, small questions to answer for yourself, reflections to go through. It's not a lot of work, but it's critical work. And then we can talk about it amongst ourselves and get more ideas from the other participants. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. I try to always make sure, whether it's through one-on-one coaching or the lab, that the evolve work you have for the week is very meaningful and will change things for you and will be part of your real life, right? Go have the difficult conversation. Go meet the person you've been needing to meet. But it's not work for work's sake. And I try to always make sure that it is very short and impactful.
Yeah, all of the concepts that you talk through and the exercises that you provide are just that. They're impactful. They're not like grand, like life changing, but they are life changing in that like they are very simple to execute. They're not foreign concepts. They're very simple to execute on, and you're like, oh, okay, this is just where I need to channel my energy. And it's the little things that become the big things.
But the key is that execution. So it's holding us all accountable to making sure the execution is done.
But it's nice because it's make one change. It's not overwhelming for when you're already feeling overwhelmed. It's one change this week. What's that one change you're going to do? And it's a very easy concept to grasp and to put into play, or I'm going to change the way I write my emails this week or talk to my team. And I do that one thing and I stop apologizing one week and that's it. And that's a huge change. It makes such a difference. Very cool to see come
I talk to myself this
yes,
week.
yes.
Yeah, and when you start racking those up, so now I've done a dozen one things, it really starts to compound that effort and gets you even more uncomfortable with doing, or more comfortable with doing uncomfortable things. It gets you more comfortable with being confident and asserting and saying, here's what I want. It gets you more confident in saying no, and I'm not going to do this, and holding your boundaries and seeing that the world doesn't crumble when you say no or stop volunteering, right? So I love how it is one thing, but those one things really add up. Can you share with me from the community aspect? Because I think a lot of leaders will want to join, especially women, just for not having to do life alone anymore. Do you have an example of one time in that group where you felt supported or where you were like, big aha from what one of your peers said versus the coaching from me?
For me, it was definitely, and I don't think the person's not here right now, but we were in a group call and someone was saying how they got a new job at like double the salary that they were making in the past. So they change of a company, they put themselves out there, applied for something different and had an increase in their pay that was double. And so just realizing like the possibility of that, like there's someone I know immediately that has had that experience, and so maybe I won't be making double at, my next promotion, but goodness, like just to know that that is in fact possible, like you should go for it. Like it's a possibility. Like it was very just gave me something to think about for myself. It's possible.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the main reasons I wanted to create the lab, is because I work with all of these phenomenal executives and I help you get those pay increases and get the promotions and, take back your life and your health and everything. And I get to see all the wins. And I was like, y'all never get to see each other's. Right. And so I love being able to show what is possible. I love normalizing wealth in women. I love normalizing how easy it can be at the top. And one of the things that you'll really see me pushing this year is I want to normalize that women can have it all. We can have money and time. We can be extraordinary parents and be executives without burning out, without overwhelm. All we have to do is to stop playing by other people's playbooks and stop worrying about if other people agree with what we're doing. And once we stop people pleasing and stop following the world's rules, we can absolutely use discernment to say, this is what's most important at work. This is what will add the most value. This is where I'm focusing my time. I'm not doing this other stuff. This is what adds the most value in my relationship with my child. I'm going to spend so much time in here and I'm not going to feel any guilt about this other stuff. I don't even want to do it anyways. I'm going to be honest. Right? Or I don't have to volunteer at school. I don't have to go to the baby shower I don't want to go to. I don't have to do X, Y, and Z. And so having a space where you normalize that you can be a highly successful, highly paid woman in business and a mom, and that you can be healthy, and that you can enjoy your whole freaking life. How many of you knew a ton of women like that before you joined the lab?
Not say that I did.
Nope. Yeah.
Or we're afraid to talk about it. Right. It's nice being able to talk about it. I think women are nervous to talk about it to each other for some reason. Men have no problem, it seems, but women, it's nice to be in a group where we say, I want to make more money. I want a bigger job and I deserve it. I should have a bigger, better job, or, I've worked hard and I'm good at what I do. But I think sometimes women have a hard time saying that. And I love that we're normalizing that we're amazing and should have all of it.
Yeah, Shayla, you mentioned it earlier of like the doom spiral. I feel like more often we get into those groups of other women and we're complaining about the things that happened or the overwork that is occurring. And instead of shifting that conversation to the positive and celebrating the successes and motivating and inspiring each other to achieve those things and talking about what we want to see in our lives and how we want to show up as individuals.
Yeah, that's a great point, Lynn. So I don't know if you guys remember this all the way back, but in your pre-work before you started the lab, I did a video that had to do with what our norms will be like in the program. And I specifically said, we are not going to be bitching and groaning to each other. And if somebody says this negative thing happened to me, you're not going to jump in and go, me too, it's so hard, it's terrible. You're just going to jump in if you've been through it and you made it out the other side and you have an answer and solution, let's go. But we all have friends to moan and groan with. That's not what this is. This is the place where you get inspired. This is the place where you get, yeah, that sucks. We're going to be real about it. But we're going to immediately go to solution focus. And what are we going to do about it? So what's next? What's the move? You've got the power, right? And so what I think is so phenomenal about this group is it gives you the place to brag. I want you to say, hell yeah, I just got $100,000 bonus. I feel like I can't tell my other girlfriends about it, but this is the place that wants you to win and is so excited for you. And so many women don't have that, right? And then just like you said earlier, I think it was Jess, about how not having other groups of friends that you can talk about these things with. And sometimes it's because you get a mixed bag, right? Maybe some of your friends stay home and some of your friends are teachers and realtors. And it's just a different vibe when you're an executive in corporate. The pressure is different. The travel is different. The hours are different. The understanding of what goes into a presentation when you're asking for approval for something, what goes into a conversation with the CEO, having a place where everyone in the room gets it. Everyone in the room is grateful for what they have and they want more. Where everyone in the room is successful, is vulnerable, and is growing. I just think it's a beautiful thing to get to watch other women be leveling up in front of you, be working on their next version, be an inspiration to you, and also be vulnerable and be able to say, here's what I'm going through right now. And do you guys have feedback for me? And to be held. It's just a beautiful space for that. Any other thoughts or favorite parts about the community that anyone wants to add? Okay. Let's talk about your favorite module. Does everyone want to share one of their favorite modules?
I'd love to share. So my favorite module is about like the physical rituals and the physical energy. It's very strange to say, but for a long time I felt like I was like grinding so hard and working so hard and working such long hours that I really separated myself from my physical body. Like I would just put my physical body through it. Like if I was tired, oh well, you keep going. If you're, if you're anxious, okay, who cares? Keep going. And so I did a lot of that. So I felt like very out of touch with my physical being. And what's interesting is like you've taught us some techniques, how to like center yourself, how to come back in, how to do some deep breathing exercises, how to work through some of your anxious thoughts. So, and how to take care of yourself physically, really. And so yesterday, I had not taken care of myself too well, like a couple of days before. And I felt how I was getting like irritable and I had put in too many hours and I was getting cranky with my kids. And instantly I was able to like realize what was happening in my body, understand that it was because I did not take care of myself and I was overworking and I hadn't rested properly. And then go to something that I knew would make me feel better, which was like a walk, and then a nice hot shower. And I felt like $1 million afterwards, and I was able to pass through that feeling very quickly and know what to do. So that experience was much less than it had been in the past. But just thinking back, a year prior, like I would have just kept going and just struggled through and felt miserable.
What a great example. I love that A, you had the awareness, B, you knew exactly what to do with it, and then C, you were able to self-lead yourself through it and get right back on track, right where you want to be.
Yeah. And another big thing was asking for help of others, because I was a big one about like, if it's to be, it's up to me. So I was doing all the things. And now I've really learned how to open up and talk with my family about, hey, like I've got a lot of pressure right now. Like, can you do this thing over here so I don't have to? Or hey, I've got some brain fog and I'm concentrating on this right now and this is frustrating me. Can you handle it? And so for me, that was big progress, because that's not something I would normally do. I would normally just handle it myself and just be kind of irritated about it. But, now they're chipping in and helping, which is wonderful. I just needed to ask.
I love it. And again, it's awareness, like what we're able to do. And I know Jess mentioned the after action reviews earlier, but what we're able to do in here is just say, this doesn't feel good. How can I change it? And so much of life, we're just going in survival mode that we don't pause long enough to change it. And you just gave an example about like how quickly it can change too. And we can stop having that pain over and over and over again. If we just slow down, notice it, and make the plan. And I teach you how to make the plan, right? So wonderful examples. How about you, Lynn or Jess?
Mine is very similar as far as what module has helped me the best. I think it's really the mindset and the intentional thought creation. That's been something that I work on every single day now. I am very specific in how I talk to myself and tell myself that I get to do things versus I have a list of things I have to do. And it's actually made every aspect of my life just so much happier without even realizing it. I would dread certain things at work because it was a to-do list of things I had to get done, or I have to travel twice next month. And now I look at it and say, oh, wow, I get to go to San Diego and Tampa next month. That's awesome. I have a great job that lets me travel. And maybe I don't even feel that way completely, but it just completely changes how I've been looking at everything in my life. So I've got little signs up in my office now that say I get to, and also you don't have to think about it if it doesn't make you happy. I found that very freeing, that I can let things go. I don't have to think about it. And I think we need to tell ourselves that a lot more. That's really, really helped me. So I think just those intentional thoughts and the way I talk to myself now has really made a difference.
I love that. I always say everybody comes for the promotion and the pay, and then they always say the happiness is their favorite part. Lynn, how about you? What was your favorite module?
Well, I will say those were some of my favorite ones as well, but I'll give a different example for this. And I think one of them that really helped me both in my work and personal life was the systems, strategies, and storytelling. Really working on identifying what is your goal, how do you want to move from X to Y, and by when. And I was also working on my storytelling. How do I concisely get my message across, provide my updates to my leaders, communicate the top priorities to my team. And so that system and that process really helped me to zone in on what is the most important thing right now, and how do we effectively communicate what that is, and then share the progress and the accomplishments towards that end goal.
I love it. Yeah, we do a lot of work in the lab. I mean, it's designed to help you be a high-performing and happy executive. So we do a lot of work in the lab that has to do with not just how you manage your team. Most of you are fantastic at already being a leader of teams, but it's how do you manage up? And so we spend a lot of time really saying, are you giving the right visibility to the executive team? And do your peers understand exactly what's on your plate? Does your boss agree with what your priorities are, and then they let you run with it and they stop putting random projects on your plate because they know the importance of your work? Do they feel connected? Do they feel like you have a system that you could easily be plopped into a new group? Because I know that Lynn can run any kind of team because she has this system. And she's always confident. She's always on track. She always keeps me informed. Like, I just feel really comfortable with her there. I think sometimes we underestimate how important it is for a leader to know that you can run it without them. You know, you being easy to work with and them having faith that you can get the job done independently is a huge part of the decision-making criteria for an executive when choosing a leader. And so this is your way of demonstrating, I always get results, but let me show you how. Let me bring you into the process and really understand my vision and strategy and how I metric my team. And then let me keep you updated on the things that matter at your level. Not the full project plan, but the things that you actually care about so that you feel like you've got a hand on it and are never in the dark.
And how important it is to repeat what you're working on and how things are going and what we agreed we were not going to be doing, like just the repetition of it and how important that is to make sure we're all
consistency in how you show up. It does feel redundant, but it creates that consistency and, oh, I know what they're going to talk about. And it's when we do run from a lot of different meetings and conversations, it helps ensure that you're showing up, setting that consistent tone and pace and expectation for what you're trying to get out of this meeting or how it relates to that broader strategy and end goal that we're working towards.
Yeah. So we build the system and we talk about the cadence of communication so that you can keep that as an ongoing conversation in front of your leader. All right, we're going into lightning round. You ready? All right, ladies, tell me from other trainings and programs you've done before, what felt different about the Performance and Happiness Lab?
I love the balance of performance and happiness. It's not just work related, it's work and personal. And it's that bridge of happiness and who do you want to be in your future self and how can you make that happen?
I agree with Lynn with all of what she said. But then also I feel like I've taken a number of leadership courses and it all feels like content at you. And, you know, you're on your own to apply it in whatever way you think. But with you, you've been very specific about, you know, we're not going to focus on a ton of content. We're going to really laser focus on the critical content you need to know as an executive. And you're going to work on those pieces like every single week and make advancements. It's been great.
Yeah, we don't want anything that's 30,000 foot academic and stays there. We can talk about the theory behind it, why it works, and then we're immediately going to go into action and make it real because I care about speed and I care about results. And so it's always fun to make it practical and make it apply every single week. You can actually use it in your real life. All right. What about anything that you would note different if somebody hasn't worked with me before from my personal style versus other trainers or coaches?
Shayla, you've gone through it all. I mean, I think one thing that I've really taken is that you give great examples of everything, whether it's something in our personal lives that you've gone through in your personal life or something in one of your million jobs that you've had in very senior roles. So I have done coaching in the past where the person, frankly, it's hard to be coached by someone who hasn't gone through a lot. And I think just everything you bring from your personal experience really makes a huge difference.
Yeah, thank you. It does seem like I have worked for about 90 years based on my resume and experience. Now, I did technically start at 14, so maybe that helped. But yeah, I think that what is fun is that not only was I a chief people officer and executive at big companies, but I've also been in business roles as well and leading mergers and acquisitions in which I worked with CEOs and their teams in a lot of different industries. And I always joke that like the one industry I didn't work in before was healthcare. And now like more than 50% of my clients are in the healthcare field. And so I do think that it helps if you have a really good coach. And it's even better if the really good coach also has experience in doing what you're trying to do. Right? I always look for my mentors to have accomplished what I want so that they can help me get there faster. And so I think there's so much power in those real life examples. In the boardroom, here's what happened. When he spoke up and said this, here's how you can react, those sorts of things. Or here's what they might be thinking when you say that. Here's how it would come across to me if I was reviewing your deck, if I was reviewing your presentation. And so I love that this is not just theoretical. We're jumping into real life examples and then real life application.
Yeah, two things for me is that Shayla really will give the tough love. So if you need to hear it, you're going to get it. she doesn't shy away from what will really help you. And there's been some conversations with some tough love you've had to give me, and I'm so grateful for it because, in the real world, like, your leader's not going to tell you that because they're not going to want to hurt your feelings and have you, crawl up in a ball and not get it done. So, it's helped so much to have you as an outsider looking in, helping me do a much better job by telling me the things I need to know. So that's been huge for me. And then the second thing is that you are so open and willing to share about your experience with your coma. And every time I feel like I want to complain about something, like I realize Shayla died and she came back to life, and this is why this is so important to her. So we talk about it like it's just another thing that happened, but it was really I know life-changing for you, and because of that it's life-changing for all of us too. So thank you for being so willing to share that, and why it's important it's imperative we work on this, because we don't want to end up overdoing it in such a way.
Yeah, thank you. So on the first piece, my only goal is to help you grow. And sometimes that means I have to say difficult things, right? And I do think that in a workplace relationship, a lot of times bosses don't want to say that because they have to keep working with you and they don't want it to be uncomfortable and they don't want you to not like them. And so I do think it's really helpful when a coach is willing to say the hard thing. We call it like being willing to risk the relationship, that at the end of it, you might be annoyed or frustrated with me, but I still, by saying it, can help you. And so we've never damaged any relationships or anything like that. We build up the trust and the love first, right? But I'm always willing to say what I think would help you grow. So thank you for that. And then as far as the coma goes, I have a fun story to tell you. I'm going to try not to cry. I'll tell you this real quick. Yesterday, I had a post on TikTok that said, about being grateful that I'm alive after dying. And somebody posted underneath it and said, "I'm so glad I found this. We worked so hard to stabilize you before transferring you. And I never knew what happened to you. And I'm so glad you posted this." And I went back and I was like, "Oh my God, were you at the first hospital?" Because what happened is the EMS picked me up, took me to a hospital. They tried everything they could and they said she's going to die. So they put me in a helicopter to Houston to see if they could save my life. And she was one of the nurses at the first hospital. And I sent her a note and I said, can I please send you a thank you? And she said, no, just you being alive is a gift enough. And she said, it's really hard working in the emergency department because we often don't get closure. And this is the part I'm going to lose it. She said, I've never given anyone as much medication as we gave to you to try to stop your strokes. And I thought there was no chance you'd make it. And she goes, I cried so hard that night when I went home after work. And she's like, I'm so glad you did. And so I told her, I said, my dad calls me his Christmas miracle. And here's a picture of us this Christmas. And we got to have it because of you. And I said, my girls got to have a mom because of you. So cool. That literally just happened yesterday. And makes me very, very grateful for all of the hard workers in healthcare and people on the front lines and in hospitals and working 12-hour shifts and doing laborious jobs that are very demanding and scary and having to go through loss and having to go through not having closure. And sometimes there's really good outcomes. And sometimes they give a family their mom back. And so grateful for this second chance at life. And when I was in the hospital, I heard God. I did not know we were talking about this on this podcast. But he told me, he said, it's not your time yet, Shayla. You have more people to help. And I had just started this coaching business 2 weeks before. So I'd been an executive in corporate forever and coaching a lot of leaders and wanting people to live their potential, but I had just started it full-time as a business 2 weeks prior. And so the thing that the coma has gifted me is this reminder to remind others that we only have one life and that we never know when it's going to end. And what my deepest desire is for people to flourish and live their whole potential and to never give up on themselves and just be satisfied with a good enough life, but to not struggle and have pain as they go get it. I want it to be fun and exciting as you go get everything you've ever wanted in life. And I don't want it to have that heaviness that I had for years as a single mom in corporate, trying to hold it all together and getting physically sick and just feeling in survival mode all the time. I want people to feel what I felt after I learned the performance and happiness formula, after I learned the discernment that Lynn opened us up with today, after I learned the mindset tools that allow me to be happy as I do the things. And so that's my deepest wish. And I always joke, I love helping women make a shit ton of money, because when women have more money, they have more power, they have more choices, and there's so much goodness in that. But really, it's about helping all leaders live their potential and love their whole damn life. And so I do think that the coma is a blessing to me in that part of my life.
Thank you for sharing that. It was really cool to hear that part of the story.
Yeah. And how many years ago was that?
3. Yeah, so I had to learn to walk and talk again.
That's not been that long ago. So it's just amazing that you
and
talk
DeArcy,
a bit.
we've been working together for like a year and a half. So
yeah, you talk about it, and it just reminds me, like, hey, nothing is that life or death, really.
Mm-hmm.
And and it's important that you be happy today, because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah, my dad always had joked growing up and said, like, don't sweat the pee-pee shit. And after the coma, I just kept thinking, like, it doesn't freaking matter. And like, I'd hear other people on work calls and hear what they're talking about. I'm like, it doesn't freaking matter. Like, it just helped with discernment. Like, there's so much that just is pebbles and doesn't matter. There's very few things that actually move the needle, that actually matter in relationships and all of it, right? And so when you think about, your friend being mad at you, or that person giving you negative feedback after your presentation, I won't even remember this 5 days from now. Why would I let it ruin my life for 5 hours? And so my grandpa had a saying that I lived by before my coma that was just doubled down. And it was, any man can smile when life goes along like a song, but the man worthwhile is the man with a smile when everything goes dead wrong. And so I do think there's so much power in knowing we're in charge. We're in charge of our happiness. We're in charge of our mindset. We're in charge. And no matter what our circumstances are, because to be honest, the coma is actually not the hardest thing I've been through in my life. And I haven't publicly shared the thing that is the hardest that I've been through. But it doesn't matter our circumstances. We can still choose to be happy. We know that there are people who lived in concentration camps that chose to be happy. And so just knowing that we have that power and that we can go anywhere we want in our mind, we just have to direct it, because it naturally is negative. So we have to take charge, but we can. We can take charge of how successful we become. We can take charge of how happy and fulfilled we are. We're in charge. And to me, that's so empowering. All right, how about we get back to the PH Lab? Okay, now let's finish out what I lied and said was a lightning round. Okay, is there anything that almost stopped you from joining the lab?
Yeah, time and money. Time and money. Is this really worth it?
Yeah.
Right?
What would you tell somebody that's on the fence because of time and money?
100%. 100% worth the time, worth the money. I mean, again, believe and be uncomfortable. I mean, it has been tenfold for me. I will say that. I've gotten so much more out of it than I even expected. So I expected to get something out of it. Frankly, maybe help with being more confident in my speeches or a better resume. But I've gotten so much more out of it. So it's definitely been worth the time and money.
I love that. Yeah. And as far as the time commitment goes, I do want people to know that so I'm asking you for 2 hours a week, 2 hours and 15 minutes a week. And we always get back more than that as we learn these concepts and discernment and what we don't have to do and all of that. So I do feel like it's always a give back of time.
100%. I have so much more time in my day now. I mean, I have not once on a Tuesday or Friday said, oh no, I'm too overwhelmed. I don't have the time to do this. It hasn't happened. It's in the calendar. Now I do what I say I'm going to do. And that's what I do on Tuesday. And that's what I do on Friday.
Love it. I love it. And that is powerful. That's one of the things we work on a lot in the lab. It's who I am. It's what I do. I do the things I say I'm going to do. And that level of maturity will accelerate you in life and business.
And those 2 hours are almost like the motivators. They give you energy. So they're not like the 2 hours that drain you. They really help continue that momentum throughout the week, and they give you the reminders of how do I want to show up? Oh yes, this is fun. This can be fun. How do I continue to bring joy and happiness into my everyday?
Yeah, and it's a part of the curriculum. What are you not going to do anymore? And so you create the space by saying no to a lot more things. That really helps.
Things that don't add as much value, right? Things that don't have the same opportunity cost. I love it. Okay. One word for how you feel now?
Inspired.
Confident.
Happy.
And I am remiss to say that we did have our other colleague, Olivia, who planned to join us today, but we had technological problems. So we will try to get her on another episode of the podcast. But we were planning to have her with us today. And so we just want to say hello, and we miss you. And we're sorry you're not here live with us. And then finally, for lightning round, I'm going to just ask you anything else that you haven't shared that you would like to.
I'll share one thing. Just that you are extremely kind and like surprises. So it's been like so fun that I won't ruin it for other people, but you just pepper in little surprises here and there, which are just so kind and thoughtful. And so that was a nice little bonus.
I would say one of the things that you asked is like, what are you most proud of, like going through this program? And I think the thing I'm most proud of is myself and the hard decisions and the hard things that I did through the program. Again, the little things are the big things. And so taking the risk to join this program, investing in myself and the growth that I've seen in myself coming out of it makes me most proud and appreciative of you and this program and the community.
I will just say that this program, I feel like, has brought in a new group of friends that I think will remain. And I think that we will share each other's accomplishments for years to come, which I think is very cool. And I look forward to, seeing what everybody does and where everybody's at. And I did not expect that coming in, and it's been a really pleasant surprise. And it's been great getting to know everybody.
Yeah, that is my wish and my hope, is that these relationships flourish for a lifetime. And so one thing that's cool that we're building into the Performance and Happiness Lab is that when you join, you're going to have some access to the past cohorts as well, so that you guys can continue to grow your network of other high achieving leaders who want to love their whole life. So that will be fun, that you will get access to these wonderful women, and in addition to your current cohort and the other members that were part of their lab as well. So who would you say that the lab is right for? If you were like, this is the kind of person who should join now, who is it?
I think it's for the person in management, maybe a director level, manager level, that finds themselves doing all the things and knows that they're ready for maybe the next role, but just not getting selected for one reason or another. I think that there's a lot of value here to know how you need to position yourself for that next step.
I would add that, go ahead, Lynn.
Go ahead,
Okay,
Jess.
I'll just jump in and say, I think it's also appropriate for a CEO who feels a little overwhelmed and alone. It can be a very lonely job, and you really don't have anybody to bounce things off of. So I think this has also given me that. It's kind of been that group that sometimes when you're at work, you have people you can bounce things off of, and I don't really have that. So I think in my current role, this has been that kind of group that I can bounce ideas off of, or, suggestions on how to handle a situation. So definitely for somebody in that kind of role.
Yeah, and I'd say this is great for anyone that's kind of at a crossroads in their life or their career and trying to figure out what do they want to do next, who do they want to become next in the next phase of their life. Really helps open your eyes to a lot of opportunities and a lot of things, and create that vision for who do I want to be as an individual and where do I want to go next. So I think it's really for any leaders and individuals that really want that positive motivation to figure out how to fulfill their own lives through happiness.
I love that. And I would just add that we have some people that it's perfect as well if they love their career and everything feels great there, but home is hard. Schedule is hard. And you feel overwhelmed. And you feel like you're stretching yourself too thin. This will also give you all of the mechanisms to be able to feel good at work and at home. All right, ladies, thank you so much for spending time with me today and sharing with everyone your experience about the Performance and Happiness Lab. And as we close out today, just give me one thing that you are proud of yourself over the last few months, how you've grown in the PH Lab.
Shayla, I'm so proud of how my inner dialogue is going, like how my self-talk. It's much improved, much more positive. It feels really good.
I'm very proud of the confidence I've gained in that I walk into a room now. My first thought is they're lucky to have me in here right now. I'm going to tell them how it is instead of feeling that, inadequacy or questioning myself. I'm there and they're lucky. So that's definitely been a big confidence booster for me.
Yes.
And I would say I am most proud of myself for taking this risk and the courage that I've had to invest in myself and go all in on this program. And I'm so excited for what's to come in my life.
I love it. Thank you, ladies. I will see you soon. Hey, friend, Shayla here, jumping in to let you know that the Performance and Happiness Lab is opening, and I'm absolutely positive that it can change your career and your life. As you know, my one-on-one coaching is a 5-figure investment and it's currently full, but the Performance and Happiness Lab is available for $5,000. It's one of the best investments you can make in your career and your happiness, and you get an amazing community to support you. Imagine being surrounded by other like-minded leaders that are successful and want more, that are trying to figure out the demands of these high-pressured careers while balancing a family, and that all want to pour into you, that want to open doors for you and give advice on, yep, I've been there and here's how I handled it. The cohort and the actual group that you get within the Performance and Happiness Lab is unmatched. It's absolutely the best community to be in for corporate leaders. So I want to see you in there. Mark your calendars. It's gonna fill up fast. So make sure you're on my wait list at shaylaking.com, SHAYLAKING.com. You'll be the first to know and the first in line. Now, I know some of you are already ready. You can go ahead and send me a note and say I'm in. For all of my quick decision makers, a lot of my leaders that I work with are quick decision makers. But if you have questions, I want to answer them all. So you can DM me on LinkedIn. You can send me a reply on any of my emails, and let's get those questions answered now so that when it comes around, you know for sure if it's a yes or no for you. This class will change what 2026 looks like in your career and your happiness. So let's get you in there now and reach out with any questions that you have. Let's go. Thanks for joining me in the 5% Club today. If you're ready to make more, work less, and design a life you love, then go to shaylaking.com and join the waitlist. You'll be the first to know when there's openings to work with me in one-on-one coaching or the Performance and Happiness Lab, my group container where you will learn to be a high-performing, highly paid executive who loves your whole life. I'll see you there.